What's going on, guys? In today's video I'm going to be going over the basics of Java. So in this tutorial we're going to be using Eclipse, and we're going to make a new file in Eclipse. And if you want to know how to install Eclipse and install Java and start working on this environment, I'm going to link a video that's in the description for that, as that video is a bit more appropriate compared to putting it on this channel. So, and it's it's pretty much easy to just look at that video instead and download Java from there. So let's straight get into this Java basics video. So first we want to create a new class, and for the purpose of this video we're just gonna name it main, and we are gonna we have this thing right here called which method stubs would you like to create. So I think we can have the main method here, and I'm gonna go over what the main method is. So right here we created our Java file. As you can see, it's called main.java, and you always, and let me repeat this, you always have to have your public class, your class's name, which is this right here, similar to your file's name, which is main.java. You'll always have to have this name main. If it's not, so let's say if I delete the n over here, there's gonna be a syntax error right here, and that's something we don't really want, so always have it the same way. So over here we have our brackets in which we should write our code in, and over here we can write methods. You can write all of our methods over here. Like I can create a method called public or public main, and we need parameters for that. So that's something I can do over here. But before we get into methods, we always obviously need to talk about the main method, which is this, in which we can write our code in. So we have public static void main string with brackets and args. So if you want to make a simple system.out statement, you always want to do it inside of a method. So this right here is the main method, which usually beginners type their code in main method. So this right here is the main method, and it always has to be this. It always has to be public static void main string brackets args inside of these parameters. So always, and let me repeat this, always have it like this. Like it should be the exact same words, exact same spacing for this right here, or else you're gonna run into errors. So let's move on to the next thing that we should be learning in Java Basics, which is system.out statements. So right now I'm gonna type a system.out statement. So you wanna write system.out.print ln. So ln stands for line next, or new line, or whatever you want to call it. But that basically shows that you want to write your output on the next line. But let's first start off with this simple print statement, and let's print out hello world, and let's run this code right here. So as you can see in the console, we got hello world, and now let's make this an ln statement and add another line to this one.out statement. If I do this, print ln, and let's say hello. Let's say please. Let's say weather. Like, what's the weather today? What is the weather like today? Okay. And we always need this semicolon in the end of all of the system.out statements. You always want to have semicolons in the end. And also you have to make sure that you have double quotation marks instead of single quotation marks, which does not work in Java. While it may work in Python, Java doesn't work like that. So make sure you have double quotation marks. And with these ln statements, it basically prints in the next line, which is pretty cool, and it works. But however, if you remove the ln statement from this, it's gonna print on the, both of these statements are gonna print on the same line. So if I run this code, as you can see, it printed out on the same line, which may seem weird to you guys, but the ln statement only works for the next print statement. So if I put an ln here and I don't put it here, this line will print out in the next line, as so. So now let's move on to the next topic. Let's see. Yeah, so basically Java is a object-oriented programming language, which is useful in many ways, and it's highly supported, and many big companies and small companies use Java. Java is mainly used in mobile applications, desktop applications, web applications, web servers, application servers, even games like Minecraft. They're also used in database connections and much more. And we often use Java as it's the most popular programming language in the world. It's open source and it's free to use, and it's also really secure, fast, and powerful compared to many other programming languages. So Java is really close to C++ and C Sharp, as it makes it easy for programmers to switch to Java or vice versa. It's also really similar to Python, which makes it easy switch. So yeah, being object-oriented, it gives a clear structure to programs and allows code to be reused, lowering the development costs. Okay, so let's move on to the next subtopic in Java. Okay, so the next thing we need to know is that what are comments? So basically, a comment can be used to explain Java code and to make it more readable. It can also be used to prevent execution when testing alternative code. So how do you make comments? You basically do two forward slashes like this, and all of this code it's basically a line that's ignored by Java, which will not be executed. And you can basically type anything here, and there won't be any syntax error. As when if you type it outside of the line, you're gonna get a syntax error right here. So yeah, anything can be written over here. Even if I write a system.out statement, like if I copy this statement into this code, it won't actually run because it's commented out, and Java will not execute anything that's in the double quotation mark. So let's just make sure that you guys understand. So this is a comment right here. Okay. Now let's move on to multi-line comments. So what multi-line comments are is, it's basically, as it said in its as stated in its name itself, it's a multi-line comment, and it starts with a forward slash and asterisk, and you can basically write anything here, like anything, and then it ends with another asterisk for each line it's in, and that. So if I keep pressing enter, all of this stuff is going to be commented out, which is pretty cool on how it works. So let me say this is a multi-line comment, and obviously we want that. So now moving on, we're gonna go into Java variables. So there are different types of variables. There's primitive data types, and there's much more that can be learned in Java. So let's move on. So we have strings. So let's declare this string variable called a, and make it equal to hello. So strings basically store text such as this text right here, that's hello, and it's surrounded by double quotes. Now let's move on to the next data type, which is int. So int store whole numbers without decimals, such as 10, or maybe we can just put 123. So our next data type is gonna be floats. So we have floats store floating point numbers such as decimals. However, in Java we don't actually call it floats. We usually call it double. We usually call them doubles. So we call it double, and it can store decimals. So if I say double y equals 100.99, that's basically a double. Now we're gonna move to chars. So chars are basically characters which store single characters such as A or B. So they say char C equals B, so that's a char right there, which is pretty cool. You know, we got chars over here, and we have booleans, which basically store true or false variables. So I can say boolean B equals false, which stored a false variable, or I can say true, and it's storing a true variable right there. So right here we've declared all of these variables, and I didn't actually tell you that. So we declared A as a string, and we assigned hello to A. We did the same for almost all of these variables right here. So now I'm gonna move on to printing out these variables. So for so you can basically print out these variables out in your console. So if I want to print out, let's say hello, I can just print out A like this, and it's gonna print out hello right here. So we just comment this out, and let's say if I want to print out if I want to print out 123, I can just put X, and it prints out 123. And then if I put B, print out it's true because it's B is assigned to the Boolean, and so on and so forth. So now let's move on to the next subtopic in Java. So we talked about data points. So now let's talk about primitive data types. So there are different types of primitive data types. There's byte, short, int, long, float, double, boolean, and char. So byte stores whole numbers from negative whole numbers to positive whole numbers, which its size is 1 byte. Short stores whole numbers from 32,000 to 32,000 to maybe even negative 32,000, and its size is 2 bytes. Then we also have int, which stores whole numbers from 2 billion, which its size is 4 bytes, and we have long, which is 8 bytes, and we have floats, which is 4 bytes, which stores fractional numbers. Then we have double, which stores fractional numbers sufficient for storing 15 decimal digits. That's why I recommend using doubles instead of floats. But if you want to save some storage on your PC, you should definitely use floats. Then we have booleans, which is 1 bit, as it only stores a true or false value, which is the reason it takes up such less size, which is only 1 bit. And we have char that takes up 2 bytes, storing a single character / letter or an ASCII or C2 value. Okay, so now let's move on to the next subtopic. Oh, and we also have non-primitive data types, like strings, for example, can be a non-primitive data type. Instead, non-period data types are called reference types to objects, and they usually refer to objects. And also null can be an example of a non-period data type. So let's move on to casting. So there's many uses of casting. Usually people use casting when they want to assign a value of one primitive data type to another. So casting basically means if I can basically cast the value of double y, and I can cast it to an int. So what this will basically do is it will basically round down to the whole number. Instead of going up one value to 101, it rounds down to 100. However, if I don't cast it, it's gonna print 100.99. So that's what casting does. However, there are many exceptions to casting. So I'll go over those exceptions probably later in a future video. But yeah, so let's move on to Java operators. So Java operators, in a sense, plus is a Java operator. It can be used for concatenation, and it can be used for math operators. So wait, operator. So if I do int x1 equals, oh, and the reason I did x1 is is I don't want to reassign the value of x. So int x1 equals 100 plus 50, and I do system dot out dot print ln print ln x1 with no double quotation marks, because you just want to print we just want to get the assigned value, which is x1, and we don't want to print x1, but we want to print the value of x1, which is 100 plus 50. So if I print this out, I'm gonna get 150 in my code as I use an operator to add 150. So that's pretty useful for math. And let's say if I do this, so right here I'm just gonna make this a bit faster, just copy paste some code right here. What if I do this and make sum and print out sum 3? What's gonna happen? We have 800 because we basically added 250. We basically took sum 1, made it 150, declared sum 2, added 150 to 250, then added the total of that, which is 400 plus 400, which we got 800. So that is a good example of the that operator. Now there's multiple different operators in which I'm going to show you. So one operator is addition, which is the plus sign, which is addition. Another operator is subtraction. Another operator is multiplication, which is an asterisk sign. Then we have another operator called division. Then we have modulus. Modulus basically basically returns the division remainder. If you don't know that, so we have modulus, and we have plus plus, which is an increment, which basically increases the value of a variable by 1. Increment. Then we also have decrements, which is basically taking away the value by 1, which decreases the variable's value by 1. So we got that decrements. And now we have Java assignment operators. So let's move on to assignment operators. So we have the equals operator, which is basically int x equals 10. So that right there is an equals operator, which basically assigns a value. Then we have plus equals. So int a equals 10, and then a plus equals 5. And then let's print out, see what we get with this. Okay, we ran into a problem because we're reassigning the value of a, so let's make it p instead. And then make that p. We got 15. So basically what plus equals does is it is basically the same thing as a equals a plus 5. That's what plus equals basically does. Then we have another operator, minus equals, which does the same thing as plus equals, but decreases the value by the inputted number. Then we have times equals, which basically takes wait, let me make this p by accident. I did it. So p times equals 10, which basically multiplies value by 10. Then we have divided by equals, and modulus equals, and equals, and so on and so forth. There are many operators like that, which basically uses simple math operators, and it's just a shortcut for doing this long time consuming code, and also saves some space on your computer. Now we're gonna go into Java comparison operators. So usually comparison operators are used to compare two values, and it's mainly used in if statements, for loops, and so on and so forth. So let's move on to the first operator. So the first operator is equals equals. So what equals equals is whether the two values are equal to each other. Then we have not equal, which is basically whether the two values are not equal to each other. Then we have greater than, then we have lesser than, then we have greater or equal to, then we have lesser or equal to, and those are pretty much the comparison operators. We also have logical operators, which are basically used to determine the logic between variables and values. So let me show you some logic operators. So we have end as one. So let me just make it a new comment called logic operators. I'm sorry if my keyboard is loud. I'm gonna try to switch my setup up for the next video, so my keyboard sound doesn't come in the video. So we have end, which is basically a logical end, which returns it basically returns true if both statements are true. So if one statement is not true and another statement is true, it's going to return false. If both statements are false, it's going to return true. And if both statements are true, it's going to return true. Now we have the logical OR statement, which looks like that. So it's a logical, let's make a tab of logical OR. And what that does is it returns true if one statement is true. So if one statement is true and the other isn't, it's still going to return true. And we have logical not. which is simply an exclamation mark. And what that does, it returns, or it reverses the result and returns false if the result is true. So these are all logical operators. Now let's move on to strings. So in strings we have multiple different operators, and so the first operator we have is length, which is basically string length. So how string length can be used is basically, if I put this statement right here, we could basically find out the length of this string value. So the string, it says that the length of the string is 26. Let's count how many values this has. So it has how many characters it has. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So we have 26 characters in this string. So that's the string dot length. Now we're gonna move on to two uppercase and two lowercase. So let's move on to that. So let's make this text 1, since we already have that signed. So we have string two uppercase with these parentheses. So what this does is it makes a whole string uppercase, and the .2 lowercase does the opposite. It makes a whole string lowercase. So let's move on to the next statement. So now we have finding a character in a string, which we can use the index of. So let me show you guys an example that I'm going to use. So we have please locate where locate occurs, and we have text2 dot index of, and in the parentheses we have this string value called locate. We always want to make sure that index of has a capital O and the rest is not capital. We always want to do a variable name dot index of. So let me just drink some water. I've been talking for a long time. So if I run this, we should get the integer value of where locate is. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there we go. We got 7. So we got 0, 1, 2. Okay, let me make it really simple for you guys. So if I do that, so it's gonna be 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And at 7 we have where locate starts. Now we're going to move on to concatenation, which is pretty important. It's where the plus operator can be used between strings to combine them, which is called concatenation. So right here, we use concatenation to add these both string values into the system.out statement, which we got John Doe. This is pretty cool. And we have, we can also use concat, which does the same thing. So if I were to print this out, it would do the same exact thing. But there's no space in between them, so you can always use the plus operator for concatenation, which is better if you don't want to have a space, if you want to have a space between, the freedom to have a space between the two strings. So now we are gonna move on to math operators. So there are many math operators, but for the purpose of the video, we're gonna go over the main ones. So we have math.max, which can be used to find the highest value between two values. so math.max 5 and 10, we're gonna get the output as 10. Then we have math.min, which does the same thing. Wait, output 10. We have math.min, which does the same thing. We're gonna get the output as 5, because that's the minimum. Then we have math.sqrt, which returns the square root of the variable inputted in the parameters. So for this, we're gonna get 8, because the square root of 64 is 8. Then we have math.abs, which is basically the absolute value, which basically converts it to a positive value of the value input in the parameters. So this will basically output 4.7. Oh, and just to clear, there's no output actually because we're not printing it out, but I'll just put that instead. Okay, then we have random numbers, which is math.random, which returns a random number between 0.5, which is inclusive, and 1.0, which is exclusive. So let me just show you how it works. And yeah, that's it for the simple math operators. Now we're gonna move on to Booleans. So very often in programming, you will need data types that can only have two values, like yes or no, on and off, or true or false. And that's where Booleans come in handy. So Boolean values Boolean is a type declared with a Boolean keyword that can only take two values, true or false. So let me show you an example of how this may work. So we have these values. So Boolean is Java fun equals true, and Boolean is fish tasty equals false. So we have the outputs as true and false because we signed it to true and false. Okay, so now we are gonna move on to whoops, gotta put my phone on silent. That's my fault, guys. Okay, we're back. So now we are gonna move into if and else statements. So obviously we learned about the conditions right here, and we also are gonna dive into the condition statements are, where's the condition statement? So we learned about the comparisons, and these are also conditional statements. So let me show you how it is. So yeah, you can use these conditions to perform different actions for different decisions. So the use of if, quote unquote if, to specify a block of code to be executed if a specified condition is true. The use of else is to specify a block of code to be executed if the same condition is false, and else if is to specify a new condition to the test if the first condition is false. And the use of switch is to specify many alternative blocks of code to be executed. So let me show you how an if statement works. So right here we have a condition, and our condition can be anything, like if 1 plus 1 equals 2. So we know that 1 plus 1 does equal 2. So if it does, it should print out dot print ln. Whoops, you have an N there. It should print out true. Like so. So we got our true value. Right here, so we can have many different if statements. We can have, let's put this. We get 20 greater than 18. It's pretty cool. And yeah, we can have we can also put input variables in these. Like we can make it this. Now we're gonna get into else statements. So we have if, then the condition on the block of code executed in the condition. If it's true, then it's executed. Then we have else statements as well, which is a block. If the code to be executed of the if statement is false, then we're gonna run this code right here. So let me show you an example of how this may work. I'm sorry guys, I'm messing up. So over here we have if time is equal to 20 and 20 is greater than 18, then we're gonna print out good day. However, we put 20 here, but if 20 is lesser than 18, my bad. However, 20 is not less than 18, so it's gonna print out good evening, like so. Now we are gonna move on to else if statements. So we have if, and then we have the condition, and then the block of code is going to be run, and we have else if, which if the block of code to be executed of the condition is false, and the condition two is true, then this block of code is going to run. And then we have else, and the block of code to be executed if the condition 1 is false and condition 2 is false as well. Then we're gonna print out whatever is in this statement right here. And next we're gonna go over to the examples right here. So right here, so basically 22 is not lesser than 10. So if I do run this code right here, it's gonna say good evening because all of this is false, and we're gonna get good evening from our else if statements. So that's gonna wrap it up for today's video of the basics. The next video I'm gonna make soon is gonna have Java switch statements, while loops, for loops, Java break and continue, Java arrays, and then I'm gonna move on to methods, method parameters, and method overloading, and the Java scope. So hope you guys liked this video. If you did, and if you found this helpful, please like and subscribe if you aren't. And also please comment if you have any suggestions or feedback for me. And yeah, I hope you guys like this video. I'm gonna have another Java video coming out the same week for switch statements and else statements and arrays, so please stay tuned for that. So yeah, peace out.